Hi guys, in this video we're going to do a quick look over of how to flash and calibrate your EDTracker. The reason for this video over the previous ones is just that we've got a new GUI now, so the look and feel has changed a little bit. We're also going to cover the 9150, the Magnetometer enabled version, and how to flash and calibrate that. That'll be at the end of the video, but you can click a link here if you want to jump to that bit. Before we dive in then with calibration, I just also wanted to put a little bit together, very short, about enclosures. A lot of people are sticking their EDTrackers in little boxes like this now. This one from Hammond is quite a popular design you can pick up off the internet. So just a quick talk about how to stick your device in that, and then we'll jump back into calibration. So we're going to start off with our EDTracker device. This is the kind of second revision of the PCB. You can see it's got this kind of notch cut out of one corner of it. Functionally no different to the first versions, but we just restyled the board slightly to fit inside these enclosures. So they're Hammond enclosures. The details are on the website. You can get them from Mauser, Farnell, Maplin, various places. And if you're ordering a device or a board from us, we'll happily sell you one as well. We can chuck them in the order for you. What we do is you can drill out a little hole here for the button, fairly obviously. Now, in the grand scheme of things, you can skip the button if you don't want to use it. You can not solder it on and not drill a hole for it. There are ways to reset dead ahead using a key press on your keyboard now, so not essential, but what we do is we cut out that hole just for the button to pass through. And then obviously you need to cut out a section on the side here of the case to allow your connector, your USB connector. What you will also need to do is just take an edge off the bottom, the lid as well. Then what we do is take your device. Now, one beauty of putting them in an enclosure, there's no need to cut any of the pins off, and in fact it's better if you leave them on, particularly the bottom ones on the Arduino, because they help pad it, push it against this lid. So don't snip any of the pins off. Drop it in there. You'll see that cutout goes around the screw hole in the case. Then what I would recommend you do is, what I use is some high density foam padding. It's sticky back on one side. If you can pick some of this up off eBay, something like that, if you've not got any kicking around. It's got a very dense foam, non-conductive, and I just stick a piece of that on the back of the lid, and what that does is it butts up against the Arduino and holds it in place and applies some pressure in there. But because it's obviously foam, it sort of deforms around the Arduino. And what I do when I put them on is I kind of put it on at a bit of an angle, and as I push it onto the chip, I push it in the direction of the USB connector, just to make sure that the Arduino is always pushed towards that connector, and just applies a bit of pressure and keeps it firm in there. Then obviously you take your screws and tighten those up. Keep it tight in your enclosure. Do check your button works before you do it tight. Make sure you've got that hole lined up properly. And there we go. Now, what you should have here is, make sure obviously you've got enough clearance for your connector, for your USB lead, but the USB plug itself should be butted up against the bottom lid, yeah, and that's very useful because that then secures this. It sandwiches it between the circuit board and the box and holds that connector a little bit tighter, less prone for it to break off. And there we go. And you've got yourself a bit slightly neater solution than just strapping the EDTracker on your head. There is no need to. I find that these hold the temperature a bit more stable, so they're a bit more reliable. But it's not the be-all and end-all if you can't be bothered to fit it in a case, or you can stick it in a tic-tac box. Tic-tac boxes are always a good option. Just cut a little hole for the button. Again, that'll neaten it up. But yeah, there you go. You can then stick a Velcro pad on the bottom if you want to, or you can just elastic band it over your headset, however you want to do it. So there we go. Right, let's go back onto calibration now. Then get that side of things done. Okay, so let's make a start then. So we've got a 9150 here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to flash, first we're going to go through flashing it as if it was a 6050. Now the 9150s are backwardly compatible, so you can use either, but obviously you can't put a 9150, a magnetometer piece of firmware in the 6050 it won't work. Nothing will happen, it won't break or anything, but it won't work. So so we'll go through the 6050 setup first, the normal kind of non-magnetometer version of the software. Now, first thing to do then is install all the drivers off the Arduino website, or you can download them off the EDTracker website. Plug it in so that you get it as a recognised device. If you're getting an unrecognised device, you just need to go and download the drivers off either our website or the Arduino website and install them just so that you get it recognised as an Arduino Leonardo or an EDTracker 2 device. Once that's done, download and run up the latest EDTracker software. Okay, so this is EDTracker UI version 3.04. That could change over time from making this video, but look and feel should hopefully remain pretty much similar. What we're going to do first is we're going to flash in the calibration sketch. So we're going to choose from this drop down on the top left here, EDTracker 2 Calib. At the moment it's version 2.5.3. That could change, it might be a bigger number, but choose the latest one. Choose that. You should see COM7 Arduino Leonardo selected here. The COM port number might change for you, but basically you get the idea. Arduino Leonardo. And choose Flash. Give it a few seconds and that will now download off the internet that piece of firmware and push it into the device. So now we can see we've got some text here describing the version, EDTracker calibration, version 2.5.3. We've got various lines displayed on the bottom here, 2 dots in the crosshairs here. Ideally these need to be in the centre when it's calibrated, and you can see they're not at the moment. That's because this device is completely blank and needs calibrating. Various numbers here on your bias values for your gyro and your accelerometer, and you'll notice a lot of them are red here. That's bad, we want those all green, so again this shows that this device isn't calibrated. There's also a toggle sensor mode here. You can toggle it between interrupt and polling. Generally use interrupt. If for any reason in your piece of work you can't solder up and connect the int pin, the INT interrupt pin on the MPU 6050, then just put it into polling mode. Interrupt is ideal, but polling will work as well. Right then, so we're going to set this to interrupt. Now the first thing we need to do before we start calibration is let this device warm up. There's a graph here, the temperature change, the red line, which helps you see how much the temperature is changing. And you can see at the moment it's not flat, it's jumped up, so it's warming up. And you can tell this from the top here. There's a temperature readout here, 25 degrees, and you can see it's slowly increasing. And the temperature text here is red, which is, if it turns green, that means it's stable. Red, it's changing. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave it for now. I'm going to have my cup of tea, and we're going to come back in a few minutes once that's warmed up. Okay, no point doing anything while the temperature is changing vastly. So let your device warm up, we'll see you in a few. Okay, join us several minutes later, where you can see now on this temperature change graph it's kind of leveled out, flattened out. We're now at 30 degrees, which in my experience, if you're in an enclosure, they tend to warm up to about 30 to 32 degrees. It's going to vary greatly depending on, you know, your ambient temperature, whether you live in a hot climate or a cold one. But yeah, that's at about 30. If it's not in a case, it'll run a bit cooler because obviously you've got air blowing over it. Right, so we are close enough there. You can see temperatures hovering into the green now. So we are ready to flash it with the to start the bias calculation. So what you can do is you see this button here, calculate bias values. Click it. If you get this warning temperature not yet stable, it's maybe just because the temperature's fluctuated a little bit, but we're going to carry on ahead here. We're happy that this has had a chance to warm up, and we're going to leave that going. So it churns through and it'll do some tweaking of all of those numbers and bring the dots towards centre. Now in that instance it's done it in one step. It's brought them into the middle in one go. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes you have to give it a lot more cycles of that calculate bias values. Just keep pressing it until those buttons get in the middle. We've noticed one in very few of MPUs that come out of the factory have an offset that is way off base, like it must have been programmed incorrectly. So every now and then you might get one device that needs like 10 or 20 button presses to get those dots center. It's it's a rarity, but every now and then you do get one. So we're good here. Look, these are all in the green. These are kind of in the green. There's certainly nothing in the red. We won't worry about the temperature. I know it's stable. I can look at this graph line and see that it's stable enough. So I'm done calibration wise, but just bear in mind, you know, keep pressing that button until the dots are center and all these are in the green. When you're happy that the calibration is done, you're going to move to putting the main image in it, the main firmware, which EDTracker 2. At the moment, version 2.20.7, but again, like I said, that could change in the future, be a bigger number. When you're happy, choose flash and let it zap that in. If at any point you don't get it, take the flash in first time. You know, try it again. Sometimes every now and then you'll get an oddity where it doesn't flash, the COM port disconnects, or the bootloader doesn't quite read a setting right. So here we are. I've got the main sketch in. You can see at the top here it says EDTracker 2 2.20.7. Obviously everything out now is working very similar. We can see the temperature change is now stable. It's all leveled out. First thing to do is set it to how you're going to be mounting it. So you can use this rotate mounting axis here to change it. At the moment it's set to top USB right, which is how I want it. It's sitting on the top of your head with the USB cable coming out of the right hand side. But you can toggle that to USB front, USB left, or even have it on the left side of your headset or the right side with the USB down. So use that to set how you're going to use it. We're going to have top USB right. Next setting you can change is the response scaling. So you can adjust the sensitivity here with the plus or minus buttons. A bigger number means more movement in game for less movement of your head. You can also toggle the response mode to exponential. Simplest thing is try them out. Linear is, as the name implies, a very straight mapping of your head movement to your joystick movement, your in-game movement. Exponential starts off very fine around the dead ahead centre and then ramps up as you go off axis. So I prefer exponential. You see what you prefer. So I'm going to set that accordingly. The next option is the recenter functions. You can enable a hotkey, here F2 for example, so that whenever that key is pressed, the head is recentered back to dead ahead. You have to have the GUI running for that, so you can play the game, have the GUI running, but what you can do is you can minimise it. Yeah, so minimise it down here in the corner, but obviously shut down the UI and that auto center hotkey. Sorry, not auto center. That recenter hotkey won't work, so you need to keep the UI running. I'm not going to use it because I never have to. What I do is I use this toggle auto center function. Put that to medium. There are 3 settings. So, well, there's 4. There's off, there's soft, medium and strong. I find medium works well for me. What this does is the EDTracker will monitor your head position and guess where you're looking ahead, and if it's drifted slightly off it will tug it back in, and this is to combat drift, which you will get in the MPU 6050 versions. It only happens over time. If you've got it well calibrated, you can try turning this off and then no auto centering will be done. If it's very well calibrated, that should work, but just having a little bit of auto center on can help with the drift. Again, drift, you shouldn't be seeing it drift significantly within kind of 30 minutes to 60 minutes of gameplay. If you are, chances are it's not calibrated properly, or the temperature's wrong, or temperature's, you know, gone way off base. But yeah, again, try it, see what works for you. If you do turn it off, do bear in mind the device is going to drift over kind of considerable amounts of time, so you'll probably want to set that recenter hotkey. I'm going to leave it at medium. I'm going to turn the hotkey off. Now we are ready to do the main thing that we're here for, which is calculating the drift compensation. So what's happening now is that sensor will drift over a long period of time. And you can see here on the graphs this yellow line, yaw drift, is considerably off the zero line, and you can see it measured here, it's minus 0.31. So what we're going to do is we're going to reset the drift tracking, and we're going to just leave it alone to monitor that drift over a period of say 5 minutes. Longer the better, but 5 minutes will do for now. And what the EDTracker do is monitor that, store it, and then apply that correction over time so that you hopefully reduce that drift down. Now you can see it's very critical when we do this that the temperature is stable, but also that you don't move the device. Yep, so the device is flat and I am not going to move it. If you knock it just 1 iota, start again, okay, because the device is very sensitive. So what I'm going to do is we're not going to sit here for 5 minutes watching that. Come back in 5 minutes after it's monitored that yaw drift, okay? So see you in a second. Okay, so we are here just about 5 minutes later, and you can see this yaw drift number here is stabilised to minus 0.27. So what we're going to do is, you can see there's no compensation set in the device at the moment. So what we have to do is save that drift compensation, click the button, the minus 0.27 goes in there, and then we can start seeing how much the yaw drift it actually works out at. And you can see it's down to pretty much 0, it's green. You can look at the graphs and get a feeling. So again, we can see the temperature is stable. The yaw drift, after applying that correction there, has come down to hovering over the 0 line, more or less. And we've not moved the device at all, which is good. If you see any moves on this yaw and pitch line, then you've moved the device. And it's stable at around minus 0.02. I mean, anything give or take 0.1 or less is going to be acceptable. Don't sit there trying to get it bang on 0, you probably won't. So yeah, so we're happy with that. It seems to be stable. If it's not, you can keep leaving it and clicking that save drift compensation as many times as you want to refine it down to the point where this yaw drift value is as close to 0 as you can get it. That's what you want, and you can nudge this compensation value up and down with these plus and minus buttons if you want to. Okay, that is it. That's the device ready to go. So what you can do now is fire up your game or open track. That works as a joystick. You can map it in game to your various headlock options. It's ready to go. Just as a quick test, you can obviously move it and see the head moving there. As a more accurate test of exactly what's happening from a joystick perspective, if you ever want to debug what's happening, go to USB game controllers, highlight your EDTracker 2 device, bring up the properties, and you should have the familiar kind of joystick axes things. And obviously if you move it left and right, tip it forwards, backwards, you should see the X move, and if you rotate it on the Z axis, you should see that bar graph move as well. So you can use that to just test that the device is working as a joystick, which is what it should do. If you're getting output there, particularly if it's off center, you press the button, cross goes back to the middle, the device is working. So if you've got problems elsewhere, it's probably the software, some settings in the game, something like that, but the EDTracker is doing everything it's supposed to do there. Okay. What we're going to do now is very quickly we'll show you the setup of the software for an MPU 9150, a Magnetometer enabled version. If you've only got 6051, then you can tune out here, that's job done. But for those of you interested in the 9150, we'll make a start on that. So what we're going to do is run up our EDTracker GUI again. Obviously this has currently got version 2.20.7 sketch in it. What we're going to do is I'm going to just push the EDTracker 2 9150 calibration sketch into it. Just overwrite the one that's in there at the moment. So you choose 9150 calib, currently version 1.0.0, it's early days at the moment, and click flash. And let that push that into the device. Calibration of the Magnetometer version is a lot simpler, not a lot to do. So you can see when that's up and running, the GUI is a lot more limited in what it displays. At the moment we're working on it, but the critical thing is the Magnetometer numbers down in the bottom left. You see there's 6 numbers there. All you've got to do, grab your device and move it in every possible orientation you could think of until those numbers stop moving, until they stop changing. So we're just trying to get every single position of the device. I think that's about it. There we go. Okay. Oh, another one there. And when you've done that, click the save button. Don't forget to click the save button. And they all turn green. That's it. Calibrated. Now what you need to do is push the main sketch in it, the main firmware that will have it work as a joystick. So from the drop down, choose EDTracker 2 9150, i.e. not with Calib on the end. Choose that, click flash. Obviously choose the correct COM port for your device, your Arduino Leonardo. And once you're in, you're in. And what you should see here is you'll need to initially just press the button to set dead ahead, because it doesn't have any base reference. So press the button, that will get it centered, and then you can see the heads kind of moving as you would expect it to. Limited number of options currently. This could change over time, but at the moment you've just got the response scaling values that you can adjust, and also the response mode. You can have it linear or exponential. Try those out, see which one you prefer. I'll leave it exponential. The auto center function is irrelevant on the magnetometer one, because the magnetometer provides you with the auto centering, but you can still set the recenter hotkey if you wish. So you can set that to currently a function key, but there's plans afoot to get that so you can set other stuff. So if the head does go off center, you can press F2 in this sense and bring it back to center, or you can press the button, and that's it. That's the setup of the Mag version. So a lot simpler, but obviously you're paying for that sensor a good 10 quid, 12 quid more. Do bear in mind, at this point in time, what's the date? 26th of October. It's early days for the Mag firmware, so it seems to be reliable enough, but we need it out there and we need your feedback, so let us know if you have any problems with it. But there's no reason why, if you do hit problems with the 9150 code, you can't put the 6050 code in. You can. So just run the previous instructions and just make do with the 6050 code for now if you have issues with that one. I'm sure that'll change over time, but for now we'll just state that on this video, and it clears us in the future. Right then, with that's it. Hopefully that's given you a guide of exactly how to set them up, and we'll see you next time. See you later. Bye.